Hi, I'm Jacob,
I'm Michael.
and today we're reviewing Badfinger's I Got You single, which was released in April of 1981 with the B-side Rock and Roll Contract, and it was the second single from the Say No More album. This one did not chart, but it was Joey's attempt at a single, kind of similar to what they did on Airwaves. He got the second A-side. And it's quite a rocker, both sides of this, or it's quite an aggressive single. I Got You is a pretty classic 50s song, but a lot harder, that riff. And kind of similar to what I was saying, a lot of this feels like a nostalgia in the 80s for the 50s, so I think that was continuing here. As a kid, remembering this, I don't think it grabbed my attention, the riff did, but I think the vocals were a bit too low or something, but now I love this song. I think it's like a great melody, the chorus hits really hard, and it's pretty merciless. Like each chorus, the way it ends, it either goes into the solo or it does that complete fake stop thing. I love those choruses. But yeah, just a really powerful 50s song that's modernized here. And only Joey could sing this, only Joey could write this, I think, in this way, but obviously it's paying tribute to a lot of his 50s influences.
When we first heard I Got You, the opening was so powerful. The way it builds with the drums and then boom, just like a cannon shot, and the song takes off. Driving fast. They're driving fast in this song.
And that riff never stops. Like that riff is going basically in every verse,
Yes.
underneath everything. I love that. It
Yes.
just keeps, and it's so hypnotic the way it keeps looping back to E
Yes.
or whatever it is.
Lyrically, when it's no time like the present, no good looking back. This was somebody facing forward, and I picked up on that at the time and thought, what a great combination, a rock song with that power in it, and kind of optimistic lyrics. Boy, that solo sounds so much like Chuck Berry, and if it's not sacrilegious to say it, only better. And I love Chuck Berry. The influence was obvious, but it was the engine of Badfinger, Joey.
Doing
Absolutely.
chords all
Yes.
over the place.
Yes.
I think it has a tremolo or something all over, some effect on the guitar that's really cool as he's going up to the final note. So I love that effect on it. And then we flip it over on the B-side, Rock and Roll Contract. Definitely just as hard, if not a harder song, but not as positive, is one way
No.
you could say it. And it was written a couple years before that, but wow, did they speed it up for Say No More. I mean, if you compare these back to back, like, it's crazy. This has to be 30% faster or something.
Quite different, and this was the only version I knew because Head First was unknown to us at the time. The Rock and Roll Contract is certainly dark and really, in a way, tells the story. Heartbreaking middle lyric by Tommy. There's such melancholy in the break. I gave you my heart. That was always a heck of a break in there. It was just darker lyrically, but a powerful song. When we did it, go back and hear the earlier Head First version. It just makes you realize how hard they kicked it up, as you said, on Say No More, and what a rapid rock album that was. It's a heartbreaking song to me, but I love it.
It's hard not to compare it to Head First, because I heard both probably around the same time. On the one hand, the Head First version, it just feels more present, like same with Hey Mr. Manager, where it's all happening in real time, and I think with a couple of years to let it digest, there is actually more aggression in the lyrics. And Tom obviously brought this back because he liked the song or something, and so I think there's actually more weight to everything that happened that he wasn't even aware of at the time of how dark it was all going to go, and so this encapsulates all of that.
And there's a yell in it by Tommy that just, if it doesn't make your blood curl and give you goosebumps, I don't know what would, but it's from the heart, in my opinion, of real frustration with everything, and just a powerful song.
I mean, that's an epic yell, non-stop before he
Here's
takes
your
the
heart.
breath and then screams again a little bit.
Yeah.
So Tom's voice, I think, is much more worn already, even in the 4 or 5 years since that Head First version. I think it works for this song really well, but it's like much more leathery and thrashy the way he's singing it. Of course, that scream, but even throughout the whole song, the lyrics are much harder to understand. It's almost like Monkberry Moon Delight style singing in a lot of it. The solo at the end, so I think it's very interesting that when they changed so many things about the arrangement of the song, talking now in the middle of it, right? All of these kind of sound effects and things to make it maybe slightly more commercial. But what they didn't change, and the same thing Pete did, which Pete always has restraint as a guitar player, he waited really until the end to let loose. Maybe out of respect for him, maybe out of just recognizing that, that is the climax. Really, the heavy solo doesn't begin until the end of the song as well.
True.
And it kind of tells a bit more of a story than Pete Pete solo, which felt, and this is no criticism against Pete at all, I think he's one of the best guitar players of all time, but where he was at in his life and when this was being recorded, I don't think he really wanted to invest as much into his solo, and he kind of threw in, to him was probably a little bit more generic and by the scales, whereas I'm sure if he had time to work on it, would have had a bit more range and dynamics like this solo has. Putting this on the B-side is questionable. I mean, this is a huge part of the Badfinger lore, this song, huge part in the middle of the Say No More album, and sticking on the B-side of a rock song already doesn't add too many other perspectives to the band. Let's review the single overall. I Got You with Rock and Roll Contract.
The hard part.
And again, always mixing it up, gotta get a Joey and a Tommy song on each side. I know Hold On is the one that charted, but I think this is a better sample of where the two of them were at in 1981 and what was on Say No More, so I like it for that reason. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I think it's a strong pair of songs. Maybe not a commercial single that I could picture playing in a jukebox, but it's Badfinger, and I'm glad they were still making music at this time.
I was thinking of something like 6.5. Wanted almost to push up to 7 because I love both these songs. It was a strong lower key than a big Airwaves push, but this was powerful, Joey and Tommy together.
All right, one more single from Radio Records.